in every unit I was, there would be one, two, sometimes three guards that would take the time, just come to me outside of other inmates and would say, we were praying for you, if they were Christians, or if they were not Christians, they would use language that I will not repeat against the government. They would say this and that, like why they're doing this is awful, this is all sham. Friend of mine was just beaten by a guard just a few days ago for nothing, punched in the head. You know why? Because he says he likes me and he likes the prayers and I'm not a bad guy. So in the middle of the night, took him and showed him that that's unacceptable. He was placed in solitary for 14 days. That's the beast. Oh, sorry. I should say that's the justice system.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News, and as you very likely heard, Pastor Artur Pawlowski was today released on strict bail conditions after Sarah Miller, his legal counsel, has been working tirelessly along with her team at JSS Barristers, thanks to your donations at saveartur.com to secure Pastor Artur's release, was successful in appealing the denial of bail on charges relating to the Coutts blockade visit by Pastor Artur Pawlowski, as well as securing terms for bail on other charges extending from contempt of court charges that resulted from Pastor Artur opening his church, feeding the homeless, and attending protests throughout COVID-19 in defiance, at least allegedly, of COVID-19 restrictions. Well, he is now at home. He has been released after some drama at the Calgary Remand Center today. He finally made his way back home, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Pastor Artur Pawlowski for an extensive interview where we discussed his experience over the last 51 days and his hopes moving forward as he is now home with his family. Fresh off of a 51-day stay incarcerated at the Calgary Remand Center, I am now joined by Pastor Artur Pawlowski. We've been covering the story. We've been bringing people the legal updates. But I think for people out there, whether they be members of your congregation, the general public, people concerned about religious persecution in Canada, people mostly want to hear about your experience, what you endured, what you encountered, your capacity as a pastor within the Remand Center, your capacity to do Bible studies and sessions with these people, just everything you've been through for these last 50 days. So if you could just start and tell us first off, I guess before we get into that, how happy are you to be home? How happy are you to be here with your family?
Well, of course, we have been waiting for this for 2 months now. Being able to hug my wife and my children and my father, my brother and his wife. Family, right? I am a family man. I love my family and I love my congregants and the people in general. So to be able to be back with the loved ones, it's amazing. It's surreal. It's like just this morning I was stripped naked, searched, and then I spent hours on concrete. And right now I was hugged by my wife and my children, my father, my brother. Is still in my brain. I'm trying to process this. My body is here, but my mind is still in cell, telling you the truth. So,
yeah. And you mentioned your body there. We wanted to talk about some of the things you went through. You've lost quite a bit of weight. You had some challenges in there. I think you mentioned you lost 30 pounds. How are you feeling after all of this?
Well, I started this with the fast. So I fasted 14 days. However, I had a constant, I had officers coming to me and constantly harassing me with, why you're fasting? Is this hunger strike? This and that. And finally, with my wife, we figured it out that they're not playing fair. They're going to probably do something bad to me. And of course, I don't want to be injected if they would send me to some mental institution, for example, just because they would say, hey, he's on a hunger strike. No, I repeatedly told them it's my religious right. I am fasting. I have been doing this many times before, but this every day. And we decided that maybe it would be safer for me to stop. So my wife picked it up. Believe it or not, between me and my wife, we fasted 51 days combined together. But the food is interesting, put it this way. Adam, you would be half the size. I've lost 30 pounds, not just because I was fasting, but because there's not enough. And in jail is constant fight for food or swapping or doing anything with food or sweets. So my friends over there were extremely happy when I was fasting because every day I would send a meal to somebody else. And I think that opened their hearts in a way. In the Bible, it says that the gift opens man's heart. And when I was there almost 30 days in solitary, only allowed out for an hour or two a day. First, I think 20 days was only 1 hour. And I questioned that. I appealed it to the director. I talked to the nurses. And that's a very interesting thing with nurses. They would come every day. They would knock. Later, they didn't because they didn't want to hear the same answer from me. And they would say, how are you feeling? And I thought they really are serious about that. I mean, when someone asks me a question, I thought expects an honest answer. So I would say, why am I in this solitary confinement? Why am I being held here by myself with no one to talk to? Why I don't have my glasses and I cannot even read? Adam, 23 hours a day without the ability of even read something. You're just walking in a little doghouse and you don't know what to do with yourself, especially a man like you and me. We're busy. I have been always busy, hardworking man, a family man. I'm not used to just sitting and doing nothing. Even when I'm vacationing, we always do stuff. We're sightseeing. And now I have found myself in a little room with some mean people. And I did not understand why. I mean, excuse me, why can't I have my glasses? Why can't I have a Bible? Why can't I have a book to read? So finally, after a few days, I received the Bible, but no glasses. So it was not good to me. Then I was able to get some books, no glasses. It took a week. So that was my first experience with the power, if you will. But the meals, I have won a favor from many of the inmates because I kept sending the meals to the different cells. And when finally I was let out for that 1 hour, what I did, I took a shower and then I made my phone calls to my wife. I think that was my lifeline, God and my family. And then I would spend 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever the remaining time was with one person outside the window. So I would say the people were screaming there. They were yelling. They were crying. I've seen breakdowns. I've seen people depressed. I've seen people saying, why are you doing this to us? We're humans. And that's what I would hear all day, all night sometimes, people banging on the doors. So I would go to those people. And when they were yelling, I would say, what's happening with you? Now, we are in this terrible place together. I get it. Because at that moment, Adam, it didn't matter what they did. I get it. Many of those people have done terrible things. I understand that. They committed a crime and those were the consequences. But I treat dogs better than humans. We treat cats better. We give them blankets. We take them outside 3 times a day, at least for fresh air. Here, I was treated worse than a dog in Canada. If this was Poland when I was growing up, yeah, that's how inmates were treated. Political prisoners especially. Probably I would be murdered, first tortured, if this was happening 30, 40 years before. But I always thought that Canada is a democratic society. I thought that we truly treat people like humans, and especially after this talk about, civil liberties and human rights, and you cannot say this, you cannot do that, and homosexual movements, you can't even look the wrong way, or there is a lawsuit. And I met a shock of my life, what I've seen, and this is just a fragment. So when finally, after 20 few days, and me just 10 minutes, 15 minutes talking to the inmates, I had an open stage. Literally, they loved me. I calmed them down. I prayed with them through the door, through the little window. I sent them meals. I read the Bible, and soon I found out that they were waiting for me. They wanted a glimpse of light. One guy comes to me and he says, "The first moment I heard you talking to this guy, I said, oh my God, the light is here. That's what he said. You know, I'm going to choke right now because he has become my good friend, and what the ordeal we went through together. A guy locked, he done has some stupid things, a young fella, injured with a leg, shot in the leg. And we were all this time in solitary. But he would hear me talking to the inmates, and he would say, the light finally is here. You know, so yeah, it was pretty cool. After they opened up, I was able to see few people at a time. And that was a lot easier because, you know, human interactions, we're like sheep. We like to spend time together. And when you're locked, you go nuts. Literally, you go crazy. And I've met people later on in my journey, when they sent me to Edmonton, I've met many crazy people. And most of them were damaged not because of what they did or what was done to them outside. They went nuts because of the system that is heartless. Bureaucracy has no heart. To them, you're a number. You know, I was there 51 days and the guards wanted me to memorize the Orca number. And I said to them, I'll do everything in my power not to memorize those stupid few numbers. And he yelled at me and he came to the room and I said, those numbers represent to me Auschwitz-Birkenau. I am a political prisoner locked in solitary confinement that they deny, right? Because to them, oh, I was alone in a cell. That's not solitary confinement. When you're there 22, 23 hours alone, what that is? Yeah. Well, I don't care how you call it, just to justify your cruelty. I was in solitary confinement by myself all day, all night, except those few moments where I could call my wife, my son, and that I could take a shower and spend some time with another human and cheer him up. So when they opened, after many complaints, and I sent letters to the director, actually, believe it or not, the entire unit signed a petition. We signed a petition asking the director why we're treated in such a way. In other parts of the prison, I've heard that prisoners can go out 4 hours, 5 hours a day, number of times during the day. Why is this unit? You know, we had the most peaceful unit in Remand Center. Mm-hmm. Even when the people were raising their voice, I would calm them down. It's like, no, they want us to act like animals, but we're not animals. Yeah. It was the most peaceful. And the guards confirmed it, that this was the best unit in the entire Remand Center. Because, listen, we were sitting together. We were laughing together. We were reading the Bible. We were praying together. When I said, okay, let's pray, you know what the inmates did? Some raised their hands. I didn't tell them what to do. They raised their hands in prayer. Some just bowed their heads. We're talking about hardcore criminals. Yeah. Some of them are there for bad things, armed robberies and, murder. And even one guy, Daniel, that we have become friends with, I became friend with him. He was in remand for bank robbers. So I'm not denying that those people have not done terrible things, but that doesn't justify the treatment. That's not the job of the guards. That's not the job of the director of, prison and jail. That's the job of the judge. Yeah. And if you have them in your custody, do your job. Just make sure they stay alive, they're fed, and they have access to necessities of life. Why this cruelty? For 40 few days, because then later I was transferred. And that's another part of the story, which is quite unbelievable. But for 40 few days, I asked, and I even had a meeting with the chaplain, why can't we have checkers and chess? Why can't we have any games? Like, why there is nothing being done with us? Yeah. Every day by day, nothing. Sit, stand, sit, eat, stand. Nothing is being done with those boys. How, as a society, we expect them to come out of jail and be better people? When I met them, finally they opened when we signed a petition and they gave us few hours a day. And we could actually, for the first time, it was so weird. For the first time, I could actually sit at the table with another human being without worry, like, Pawlowski, go back to your cell. Yeah. Go back to your cell. Like, I'm looking at the clock, it's not working. So I didn't even know. I was out 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour. How do I know? Yeah. finally we complained, so like fix the clock so we at least we can know what time it is, but that took weeks. Anyway, we're sitting at the table and I'm, I did the Bible study. I did it with one person, then 2, 5, 10, and the whole unit. And then finally I said, would that not be awesome if we could play checkers and chess? Those boys, when I came out, they were talking about armed robberies and the guns, and we shot this guy and did that, and that was cool, and F this and F that. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I am in hell. I am in hell. So I started to talk to them and says, if you keep talking about this stuff that brought you into this place in the first place, how you expect to be a better man when you come out? Change your mind. Don't talk about stupid things. Don't talk about guns. Don't talk about drugs. Don't talk about stealing and robbing. Let's change the focus. So when I talked to the chaplain, I said, sooner or later, I'm going to come out. And those boys have no one. You know what the inmates said to me? They said, Art, there is no hope. There is no hope here. Nothing is being done with that. There's no hope. So those boys go back to what they know. What do they know? Guns and sex and drugs and pistols, shotguns. And it's like, now I understand why it's a revolving door. I understand when they come out and weeks or months after they come back to the very same thing. I mean, it's not a given. You don't have to be very smart to understand the system has failed this society. So after a while, we had a great time together. They allowed us to stay out for a few hours, 2 hours, 1.5, depends of, how they felt that day, because you never know. Yeah. You never know. You look the wrong way. So for example, I led people in the prayers and they didn't like that. Okay, lock down. But we're praying. Doesn't matter. You oppose, you say anything, you look the wrong way, boom. And there's no recourse. There's nothing you can do. Like I said to my wife, oh, my God, I am in the hands of the beast. You understand? And the beast is holding on to me, and there is nothing I can do about it.
It's so interesting, and it's a testimony very much to your character. You just spent 51 days incarcerated, very much as a political prisoner. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the transfer to Edmonton, some of those other things. It's also very interesting to hear the sort of dehumanization, them trying to turn you into a number, very Clockwork Orange-esque, trying to reduce you to just a number and to just a prisoner, trying to revoke your identity. But it's so striking to me that your principal concern here is the treatment of those other people and how the system will not lead to their remediation, lead to their salvation, surely, in your perspective. I just wanted to ask, obviously you don't want to be incarcerated. Obviously you don't want to be behind bars. But do you feel as a pastor that to some extent you were needed there, that these people needed you, that there was a higher purpose to your incarceration beyond the government persecution and prosecution?
Let me answer this with the words of the inmates. And they said, just don't go. Yeah.
Take your time.
Yeah. Those boys have no one. They are left alone in the hands of the beast. A friend of mine was just beaten by a guard just a few days ago for nothing. Punched in the head. You know why? Because he says he likes me. And he likes the prayers. And I'm not a bad guy. So in the middle of the night, took him and showed him that that's unacceptable. He was placed in solitary for 14 days. That's the beast. Oh, sorry. I should say that's the justice system. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I mean, it's, again, further testimony that your principal concern here, despite everything that you have been through, is ultimately, from the get-go, all of this. A major reason that you're incarcerated is because you see the homeless people on the streets and you say, well, I'm not going to abandon them. They don't stop being hungry because of COVID-19 restrictions. I'm going to feed them. You see people often dealing with addictions, hardships, whatever they've been through. And you say, I'm opening my church to them. I'm not going to turn them away because they need me. And then you see these people in jail needing a pastor, needing a leader, and you are there to pastor for them. So I think for people out there, some people who maybe vilify you, some people who don't understand you, some people who don't understand why you do the things you do, it's abundantly clear that you care deeply for people out there. And maybe if you could just comment on, maybe, I know sometimes when you preach, you can be outspoken and loud and very Martin Luther King style dramatic. But if you could talk about the heart of your ministry and the core of the reason why you do these things you do so uncompromisingly.
Well, my whole trouble started in 2005, as you know, when the government declared that giving free goods and services is no longer allowed, and congregating is not allowed, and giving printed material, Bibles, is not allowed. My Bibles were confiscated by the police. 300 citations, over 100 court cases. And finally, 2015, we win. There was 11 arrests at that time, and they left me be. And when the COVID came, I think there was a fantastic way of stripping us from the rest of our rights. Mm-hmm. I think they have found a new way to say, hey, we can do whatever we want. And unfortunately, where are the judges? Where is the protection of our rights? Where is a judge that say, hey, this is unconstitutional. I'm not going to allow this. Yeah, the politicians may go nuts, but we still have a rule of law. There is Criminal Code of Canada. As you know, they moved to our church illegally, breaking the Criminal Code of Canada. And I'm yelling and screaming, like, where are my rights? Where is the rights of Canadians? And I'm the bad guy. And, I have a message for the mainstream media that today, it was me. Today, my speech was deemed by politicians unacceptable, illegal. But tomorrow, perhaps they're going to write something that the government will not like as well. Maybe they will cover a story that Kenny doesn't like. What is going to happen to them? They might find themselves in a blue coverall like I did, stripped naked first, checked, dehumanized, pushed around in solitary confinement, and they will look and they will say, what happened? How that happened? I just wrote a story. I just gave a speech because I love people. I did not incite violence. 3 times in a speech, I told them peacefully, peacefully, peacefully. I've not once said block the roads. I didn't say put your cars there. No, I just wanted to inspire people, Canadians as a whole, stand up for your rights. Keep fighting for your rights. That's what I said. And I've heard in the past 50 days such a horrible things about myself. The media is writing such a horrible things like I'm a monster. The Crown portrayed me as some kind of a bloody murderer. Today we were stripped naked today and put in a tank. And I talked to one inmate and he said, I read in the papers about you that you got $25,000 bail condition. He says, he's a criminal. He says, they don't even give that much to murderers.
Yeah.
They don't give that much to murderers. I mean, murderer can come out $5,000, $10,000, no problem. What they're doing to you is insane. And this is the inmates talking to me. Actually, I want to, on the record, I want to say, and I promise, I vowed in my own heart that I'm going to say that there's some amazing guards, both in Riemann here in Calgary and in Edmonton. Amazing. I had guards coming to me where no one was watching, and they would say, God loves you. I had guards coming to me and say, you are a political prisoner. We know that. They're doing this to you purposely. We know this. I had guards coming to me and they said, we don't understand why you're in solitary, but it came from the upper management. I had guards coming to me and they said, we stand with you. Thank you for fighting for our rights. Guards. both in Calgary and in Max Remand Center in Edmonton. In every unit I was, there would be some, 1, 2, sometimes 3 guards that would take the time, just come to me outside of other inmates and would say, we were praying for you, if they were Christians, or if they were not Christians, they would use language that I will not repeat against the government. They would say this and that, like why they're doing this is awful, this is all sham. And human nature, I have witnessed the guards not wearing the mask. I have seen them, taking it down. They're humans.
Yeah.
Everyone hates a muzzle. Yeah. We're not meant to be dogs. So I'm not blaming them. It's just they're caught within the beast system. And they would take the time. For example, I was freezing. Last day in Calgary, I had such a good thing going. The boys loved me. Every time the protesters were showing up, they were cheering up, Free Pastor Artur, the inmates in the cells. And of course, during the protest, I would be taken out of my cell, so I would not be encouraged. And I was told that they're doing this to me, so I would not. In other words, what they wanted to do, they wanted to break my mind by constantly switching. Because humans, we are trying to get comfortable, even in the most horrible circumstances. What they were trying to do, they were trying to break the comfort. So I would start feeling a little bit more comfortable, trying to figure it out, how to survive this craziness. Boom. I would find myself outside of cell in a tank. Not why? I don't know, but I was told to go, so I went. I would be lied, there's a visitor, but there was no visitor. I would be taken to a tank.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. Nathaniel told us they said you had a visitor, and that's when they transferred you suddenly to Edmonton. What was that like? Was that scary? Like you just thought you were going to visit somebody, and suddenly you're being driven away.
I know. I'll tell you what was scary. This is 51 days of never knowing when I'm going to be attacked and beaten. I don't know if you can understand. Being in a state of mind that you always got to watch your back because you can be attacked at any moment. I'll explain it. I was told very early on by inmates that they were offered by the guards to beat me up for free time. Free time, what that means? That means when you're in a cell and the guard has the power to get you out for another hour or another 2 hours and you're going nuts in your cell, you will do a lots of things to get that extra time. And four different individuals, inmates, came to me and they said, Art, we love you, man, and you're a priest. How can we beat you up? But I need to tell you that. A guard came to me and says, hey, we will, by accident, we will open the door of Art's cell. And if you can just show him how much we don't appreciate him, then we'll give you some incentives. We'll give you some time off. And another guy was being transferred to the hospital for some treatment, and he was told by the sheriffs, and he was told, hey, while you still have one hand operating, why don't you guys beat this guy up? He's, you're in trouble because of him. When you say that, if you have never been in prison, it will be hard for you to understand. Over there, you can die very quickly. You can be stabbed very quickly. Another inmate came and says, 2 of us were offered to beat you up. And every one of them, I'm so grateful that God protected me through this whole ordeal because they said no. One guy says, I turned to this guard and I says, like, how can, like, he didn't do anything to me. He's a priest. I'm not going to beat up a priest, a clergyman. Like, wow. And, of course, they use a different kind of a language. But very early on, I was told those stories. So the inmates would come to me and says, like, just watch your back all the time. And if you're going to be released, the guards can provoke an inmate. And if he punches you, you both go to 10 days of penalty and you won't be released. So I like a constant state of paranoia a little bit, like where is the blow going to come from? Thank God that because was there with me and those boys really loved me. And I prayed with them individually. I counseled them and I went even to their cells. They asked me to pray in their cells because they were seeing stuff. they refused to do it. But imagine if I was in a different unit, let's say gang unit, I think I would be gone. I think I would be murdered in jail, and not because of the inmates, because of inciting violence, by the guards that's supposed to protect us. But I wanted to throw out there that there are some amazing guards, beautiful souls, amazing souls. One guard comes to me and says, I don't understand what they're doing to you, but we are humans too, and we feel for you. We understand, So that was very, very touching at the right moment, because it's very easy to paint them as all villains. There are monsters. No, that's not true. There's some good people in Calgary Remand Center and some amazing people in Edmonton. But coming to the story, so I had the entire unit at my prayer table. We would discuss the Bible. We had a great time. And suddenly a guard comes in and says, Art or Pawlowski, you have a visitor. And I kind of it felt weird. Sometimes you can tell someone is just lying to you. Yeah. And it felt weird, but there's nothing you can do. If you don't go, there is more trouble for you, right? So I stood up, I looked at the inmate, and he knew. He says, watch your back, because they're going to try to do something to you. I mean, it's like a horror movie. So I was taken to a mission, and at that time I knew there's no one waiting for me. Mm-hmm. They're going to do something. Either they will strip search me again, because they've done it numerous times, or they will take me through this machine, the scanner. I was scanned so many times. I don't know if they damaged me or not. I mean, they were looking for contraband, like what I was smuggling. Excuse me, So anyway, sheriffs were already waiting. They gave me my clothes back, and I was transferred to Red Deer. In Red Deer, we switched the car, and I was taken to Edmonton Remand. And again, in front of other people, stripped. And this stuff has never happened to me. Why do you have to do this to another human being in front of other people? I mean, if an officer needs to see if you have something, yeah, I understand that. And in a body scanner can pick up anything you have on you. So why this other part? For what purpose? Or why both? And why in front of other people? I mean, you can do this in humane.
It's dehumanizing. And they haven't broken the chain of command. You've been in custody their entire time. So, yes. Yeah. So, and what were you thinking? Were you scared? Were you not sure what they were doing? Did they tell you at that point, at least, you're going to Edmonton? Or you're just in a car uncertain what's happening?
No, I said, what's happening to me? And then the sheriffs looked at each other, and kind of like they were expecting the okay to tell me. And one guard said, nodded to tell me, so yeah, you've been transferred to Edmonton. So I know at this moment I'm going to go to Edmonton. I just don't know why, and I don't know which unit. So finally we arrived, and I got again stripped search in front of other people, and they gave me an orange suit coverall, and a bag of stuff, no pillow. Just your little bed thing and blanket with holes in it, and I was taken. And here is a horror movie that starts. They took me to the maximum unit that they only take you when you're bloody murder and you are a danger to the staff and to the inmates. And they locked me there. But first I entered and I said, my God, I am now in a big trouble. It was 3 stories high, no one inside. It was like a Matrix movie. The guards on the left, and they locked me in the most secure, for the most dangerous inmates ever there, on the 3rd floor, cell number 1. No TV on the entire unit, freezing cold. I mean, freezing cold. I could not sleep all night because it was so crazy cold. And I was a guard slipped a paper under the door, and I read it. And I think at that moment I reached my limit, if I may say that. Because it said that I am unsafe to guards and the facility. In other words, I'm dangerous. And I'm going to stay there 15 to 45 days, locked like an animal in a cage for no reason. I've done nothing to deserve this. We had the most peaceful unit. I prayed with the people. I calmed them down. We had no incidents, no issues whatsoever. And I was snatched from that and placed again. I just finished solitary. Again in that. And I said, that's it. I'm giving up. I can't do this anymore. Will there anyone that will fight for me and come to the rescue? Because it looks like I'm done for. I'm spent. It says that I might be there 15 to 45 days, but also it said that I may spend more. It's up to them. And I know a guard came with some kind of a health person, and again I said, like, why am I here? What have I done to deserve this treatment? And again, I've heard what I've heard a number of times. It's from the upper chain. It's above my paid grade. We don't know why you're here. We were told to place you here. And that's what the letter says. And actually, you had the signature of the deputy director, like the second in command in Edmonton. So that's how I spent the night, freezing, shivering, could not sleep. I asked the guard, please, I'm going to die here. I'm a healthy man. I came here healthy, but I'm going to, if I will ever come out of this place, I'll be extremely sick. And I started to feel physically sick because you're in a constant freezing environment. It was as cold as outside. And Edmonton is a lot colder, and it was snow on the ground. So he actually, thank God, he brought me a second blanket. It was not good enough, but it was better. When I was already going up the stairs and I'm going to die in this place. I'm going to freeze to death. Where I heard you're going to be transferred. But where? What? No idea. So eventually an officer comes and takes me, and Adam, you will not believe this. I could not believe that. I was transferred to the mental unit with the crazies. And when I walked in and I saw the people walking in a circle and doing crazy stuff, like in an asylum, jumping up and going down and just crawl, it's like, I'm thinking, my God, they actually locked me in an asylum. And I'm thinking, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I think definitely it's a better thing than, I prefer crazy people than to be alone in my, max security, lonely outdoor prison cell, like Soviet style. So I asked the officer, I said, sir, where am I? And he says, you're in a wild, wild west. And they all started to laugh. I mean, this was funny for them, It's a funny thing. And I've seen officers laughing and they were pointing at me all the time because I guess I was the village idiot, maybe for them, because, look at this guy over there with the crazies. He just stood for our rights. What a fool. He fought for the rights and freedoms, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, for the constitution of this great country. This fool stood up for the rights to protest. What a crazy man. Actually, he belongs here. And they had a great time. So first day, I tried to figure it out. Okay, I am in this situation. What can I do under the circumstances? What they are going to do to me if I start praying for them? What they're going to do if I start having a Bible study? So I started with one. I just sat down and I started a conversation. I picked a crazy guy, really crazy. So that didn't go very well. And then I sat at another table and behold, there are actually some people over there that are there for all kinds of different reasons. For example, drugs. Lots of guys like to be in that unit because it has the biggest amount and the easiest access to drugs. I've seen people dealing drugs. I've seen people snorting the drugs. I was offered drugs freely. I could become a drug addict, no problem. And that's throughout. Every single day, actually multiple times a day, I could receive drugs. Drugs that, of course, I'm not an expert on drugs, so I had to educate myself. drugs that are equivalent to cocaine, opioids, all kinds of fentanyl. Fentanyl. You can have fentanyl, a different name for it. And some are happy campers, believe it or not. And the business is flourishing because you can buy $5, $10 a pill, no problem. And so I sat with the guy, and actually he sounded quite sane. And I started with him. I said, okay, one is not totally crazy, so I can start here. And then I started with another, and then another, and another. By the time I was transferred, a few days later, I had 5 people at my Bible studies. I prayed with multiple inmates. And believe it or not, inmates were starting to come to me for blessings and just talk to me. And they were waiting for me to come out of my cell. So again, in the words of the inmates here, one guy, actually few of them, but one that really touched me, I wanted to cry. He says, Art, we need you here. I know you want to go home, but I was praying that God would keep you here for a few more days, just for us. And that's why it was so emotional for me, because I understood that a life without hope and anyone that actually directing you to hope is hell. That's actually what it is. A life without hope is hell. So five inmates, I was able to pray. A chaplain came to visit me. Actually, the same chaplain that visited Coates came to visit me. A good man. We prayed together. I connected him with my boys, so when I'm out, he can continue ministering to those kids. Watching TV was very interesting because there are 2 TVs over there, and there's actually TV room. So good thing out of all this craziness was that this unit had the most outside time in the entire prison. Right. So I could go out and interact and watch a movie. But here is the catch. Because of some people's states, when you watch a movie, you watch 10 minutes, and then he would stand up and change the channel to another movie. Then you watch another 10 minutes, he would stand up and change to another. So during 1 hour, you would watch 3-4 movies, 10 minutes each portion. At first it was kind of annoying, and then I just started laughing. It was kind of like a funny thing to watch this guy jump. And if he's laying there and watching, and he jumps, boom, he runs to the remote, changes the challenge. Okay, a different movie. So that's how it was going. My inmate was a guy that murdered his brother with a machete. So first I asked him, what are you here for? And he says, well, I murdered my brother. I said, oh my God, protect me. And then I said, how? He said, well, with the machete, and then a total schizophrenic. And he would come with all kind of crazy things. But you know what? A few days later, he was sitting on my table listening to the Bible, and I asked him after, I says, how that works for you? Like, I mean, do you like it? And he says, yeah, I really like this. I like those conversations, and I prayed for him. I said, can I pray for you? Can I lay my hands on you and pray? And he says, I would really like that. And when I was being transferred, and again, don't ask me why, because nothing makes sense. Why they would wake me up 4 a.m, only so I would spend 5 hours on concrete later. It's beyond me. I don't understand why, but that's how it is. But when I was leaving the cell, he wished me like he like a nice guy, like a friend that appreciated my efforts to impact his life. Nothing makes sense. For example, we are in isolation units, but when they were transferring us to the tank, including today, we're all transferred together. And we're sitting in a tank together. I mean, in the unit, you're separated because of COVID and the potential spread. But then in the tank, it's all okay. We can all sit together. We can all walk together, talk and hug each other. And, that's okay. That's perfect. Virus understands. But then we got to go back to the solitary because we might be attacked and we might attack others with a deadly virus. So those are the things that I have been observing every single day. Right. Nothing makes sense except abuse of power, control, and my question is why? How can we expect those people come out of the system and not reoffend? Can we expect them to be normal? in a society when the only thing they get is a stick.
Right.
You keep beating the dog. Don't complain that he keeps biting you.
And so just to confirm, at this point, because you were basically moved to Edmonton right around the time of the good news on Friday on the successful appeal of bail. So at this point, had you received that news at least on the bail success for the first two charges, the Coots charges?
So this was the weird thing. There was absolutely no reason whatsoever to move me except what I was told by a guard that they're just messing with you. I guess we didn't break you enough. I guess we didn't mess with your life enough. I guess we didn't mess with your family life enough. So the hammer came only to mess with my head, to break me. And that's what I was hearing throughout this ordeal from the inmates and from the friendly guards. Be careful. That's how this whole system works. They will break you. They will abuse you. They will make your life hell. So you would only plead. The whole system is to plead. Yeah. Plead. It didn't matter. It does not matter if you did it or you didn't. You're in the beast system. Plead so you can be off the hook and you can go back to your family. If you don't, we'll mess with you even more and you will never know where or when the punch is going to come from, either from inmates or from the guards. And I think through this whole thing, that was the scariest part. Yeah. Because you look at the uniform, at least I did some time ago, I have a hard time to look the same way at the uniform today. And you expect a higher standard. You expect those are the good guys. Yeah. They will uphold the law. For sure, they're not going to punch me in the face illegally. For sure, they're not going to break the law.
Let's just jump forward to when you finally heard. Were you back in Calgary when you finally heard that you would be getting out this week? And what was your reaction? What was going through your head when you heard you might actually be able to be going home to your family?
Well, I think you would expect me to say I was very happy and I was jumping with joy. Actually, no, I was still afraid because I was told by the inmates that I might be punched and that might be an inmate that they will convince to attack me. And it doesn't matter who is the villain. It doesn't matter if I walk and someone jumps me, I'm still in solitary and I'm still punished for 10 days. So they told me, be careful, because now that's what they're going to try to do something to you. If they want to keep you here, that's what might happen. So I was extra careful about how careful you can be. Right. You're in a cell, there's no camera. I mean, in Edmonton, everywhere I went, inside the cell, at the max pod originally, and then in a crazy unit, there is camera inside. So I was a little bit at ease because at least there is a recording, and I've heard of stories when they said the cameras were not working. Yeah.
Well, and it's so sad to see that you even have to think that way when you're just trying to follow the rules. You normally in a healthy system, you're going to be released in a couple of days. Oh, good, I'm going to be released in a couple of days. But it's sad to see that it's so narrow and so binding, and that you have to be paranoid and neurotic because of the things going on there. And I just wanted to kind of get into, now that you are released, still massive legal fights ahead of you. You're not entirely free, but you do get to carry on in some of your role as pastor. You do get to preach. Otherwise, you're largely under house arrest. But can you talk about the sort of plan moving forward now that you are out, you are with your family, both in terms of the legal battle and how you're going to continue within the terms of your bail to serve as a pastor?
Well, for sure, I will continue exposing the corruption. I mean, I think that's my role, to fight, to fight for those people. I mean, they have no one to fight for. For whatever reason, and I understand the society, they're the bad guys and they deserve that. They deserve to be in prison. So I understand that aspect. And for sure, some do deserve to be in prison. But for sure, they don't deserve the Soviet-style treatment, the Chinese, North Korea-style treatment. No human deserve that. Being in prison behind the four walls is enough punishment, in my opinion. And the guards and the system should not add their own little punishment on top of the court's punishment already. So I want to expose that. I want to fight for those boys. They cried, when finally they came to pick me up. I asked, because I don't know. You never know. You never know. I asked, why you're taking me, or you're being released. So that's where I know that's probably I will not see them for a while, those boys there. So I hugged them, and they cried. And they cried because a little bit of light in their monotony of horror, a monotony of darkness, abuse of power has been, released, is going away. And I told them, you be the light now. Yeah. You just take over. Daniel, I called him my little deacon. I said, you be the Pastor Art now. I mean, it's up to you to tell them that there is hope, that there's God that loves them no matter what. So I want to still do what I have been doing. Of course, I am still in prison. So don't kid yourself. I'm still a prisoner, a political prisoner. And why? Because there is one law for me and there is one law for Jason Kenney. The same rules do not apply to all Canadians. The politicians can break the mandates and regulations, and it's perfectly okay. That's okay. Sky Palace party and a restaurant party, that's perfectly okay. But if Artur Pawlowski is doing that, then we have to make sure he's being punished to the fullest of the law. And plus, of course, my back hurts like crazy and my bum hurts like crazy. You know why? Because I spent probably as much time on concrete than on the bench. Because that's what they were doing. Every time people were protesting, I would be taken to the tank, concrete. And I would be taken to the tank just because. I would be taken to the tank or to a hard place, just whatever, right? So I'll try to recoup my strength and keep plowing along. And of course, I'm a pastor, so I am allowed once a week to go to have my church service. So Saturday, I will be in a church doing what I have been doing for 30 years. I'll give people hope. And the rest, I can't do much. I cannot leave. For example, I can't go outside. I can't take my kids to a movie theater because for 2 years, we were not allowed to go to a restaurant. For 2 years, we were not allowed to go to a movie. And when they hugged me today, they said, Dad, there is a new Spider-Man. Well, we can't watch it. Sorry, we have to wait until we can watch it on TV because, your daddy is still a political prisoner of conscience. And I'm still, I guess, the enemy of the state. And why? People have to ask themselves why. What happened to our Canada? What happened to our beloved nation? How low we have fallen.
There was action inside, but you were aware hundreds of people were gathering outside, showing solidarity for you. Finally, let's just wrap up. Do you have any messages for those people who were following your story, who were concerned for you, and are certainly happy to see that you're home now today?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you, here's what I've heard. I've heard of 15,000 people downtown cheering Free Pastor Art. And when I heard about that, my heart melted and I had tears. And I said, there's some, I'm not abundant. I'm not alone. There's some people that get it. Yeah. There's some people that understand that I didn't do that just because. I did it for them, for the freedom of all. So I want to thank you so much, the people that came to the protests outside of Riemann. Thank you so much for standing with me and my family. I'll tell you, not just you were there for me, but every inmate that have seen you or heard you would come to me after, and this is what they would say, and with tears, crying. They said, thank you. Tell them, thank you so much, because that gave us hope. I'll tell you of one man that came to me, tattooed all over. I mean, he was a scary looking fellow. I don't even remember what he did. But you know what he said to me when he saw the people outside cheering up? And of course, the people inside were cheering as well with the people outside. Free Pastor Art. And the guards would say, sit down. He says, no, Free Pastor Art, Free Pastor Art. Of course, I was locked. I was not allowed to see that, but I could hear it. Free Pastor Art. And this guy comes to me and he says, when I saw that, that was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It restored my humanity. And that was not just one person. Another would come the next day and says, like, I've never seen something like this before. Those people love you. This is amazing. When I get out, I'm joining your church. Another person would come and says, like, this is what family looks like. This is family. So I want to tell you, all of those people, you were not just touching me. You were touching countless lives of the inmates, but not just the inmates. You were touching the hearts of the guards because they were coming to me, impacted by what was happening outside. And I truly believe that thanks to you, Rebel News, and to all of you that were watching the story, I believe I'm still alive, because if I had not have the backing of you telling every moment of my journey out there to the whole world, who knows if I would survive this journey. I think bad things they would do to me.
Well, Pastor Artur, I want to thank you so very much for taking time to share your ordeal, what you've been through these past 51 days for us. It's an honor and a privilege to tell your story, and we will continue to tell your story throughout all of this. We're certainly not going to forget about you. Thanks so much for this important update. And for everyone at home watching, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos.
Hello, my Rebel family. I am at home. I'm still in the middle of crazy legal fights. I am under house arrest. So if you still want to continue to help me in this journey, in this unbelievable, crazy journey, in this fight against corruption, then please do go to saveartur.com. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you, every one of you, for supporting me, my family, and for supporting the Rebel News and this fight. Every penny that is raised, it goes to the lawyers, and nothing comes to me. So you can be sure all of that money is designated and given to the lawyers, so I and others like me could still have their rights restored. So thank you so much. Be blessed, and thank you.